Burnt Truths is a special investigative series from the Ultraviolet Tide podcast presented by Low Ultraviolet. While Burnt Truths uncovers the surprising history, marketing myths, and cultural forces that shaped our relationship with tanning and sun exposure, Low Ultraviolet helps you protect your skin with confidence. Low Ultraviolet is the first and only sun-safe marketplace, bringing together a thoughtfully curated collection of UPF apparel, SPF products, and sun protection essentials all in one place. Discover trusted brands like MD Solar Sciences, Line in the Sand, Sun Patch, and Low Ultraviolet's own line of UPF 50+ essentials designed to make sun safety effortless and stylish. Because knowing the truth about sun damage is only half the story. Having the tools to protect yourself is the other half. Visit Low Ultraviolet and shop smarter sun protection today at lowultraviolet.com. If you grew up in the early 2000s, chances are you remember the smell. No, not the smell of sunscreen, but that of self-tanner. It lived in bathroom cabinets, it stained white towels, it promised a bronze glow without a single minute in the sun. Sometimes it delivered, sometimes it left you looking more orange than golden. But somewhere between those streaky lotions and today's glow drops, something changed. Today, bronzing mousses, facial drops, tanning waters, and professional spray tans have become part of mainstream beauty rituals. The global self-tanning market is expected to grow from roughly $1.2 billion in 2025 to nearly $2 billion by 2032. At the same time, fewer young people are using tanning beds. More are reaching for self-tanner instead. So what happened? How did self-tanner go from a scientific accident to a luxury skincare category? And does swapping UV rays for DHA represent real progress? Or have we simply found a different way to chase the same beauty standard? I'm Erica, and this is Burnt Truths, uncovering the shady side of getting sun-kissed. Let's get into it. Back in episode 1, we talked about Eugene Schuler, the founder of L'Oreal. In 1935, he introduced Ombre Solaire, one of the first commercially successful sun oils. But here's what's fascinating. The idea of fake tanning wasn't decades away. It was already beginning to take shape. During World War II, beauty products became scarce, and nylon stockings were heavily rationed. Women got creative, brewing tea bags to stain their legs and create the illusion of both stockings and a sun-kissed glow. It wasn't self-tanner as we know it today, but it reflected something that would shape the beauty industry for decades. Then in the mid-1950s, a scientific accident led to a massive breakthrough. At Cincinnati Children's Hospital, researcher Eva Wittgenstein was studying a sugar called dihydroxyacetone, better known today as DHA, as an oral medicine for children with glycogen storage disease. But something then unexpected happened. When the syrup accidentally spilled onto the skin, it turned brown. Not because of melanin or because of UV light, but because DHA reacted with proteins in the outermost layer of the skin through what's known as the Maillard reaction, the same chemical reaction that browns toast or gives baked bread its golden crust. Scientists had accidentally discovered a way to create the appearance of a tan without sunlight. Now, it wouldn't stay for forever, and it only colored the dead skin cells on the surface, but it worked. The beauty industry took notice, and ad dollars and product innovation weren't too far behind. In 1960, a familiar player returned to center stage. Coppertone introduced QT, short for Quick Tan. The lotion brought sunless tanning to a wider consumer base. Today, that industry is approaching a $2 billion global market valuation. So how did we get from orange streaks to flawless airbrush tans and luxury tanning brands? To answer that, I wanted to talk to someone who works in the sunless tanning industry firsthand.
I've worked in this tanning space for over 15 years. starting with the tanning beds and then moved into the sunless tanning industry. There's been a ton of innovation in the sunless space, especially in the last decade. I think one thing that's driving more people to try sunless is innovation. No longer do you have to worry about turning orange or looking unnatural from a sunless tan. We've come a long way. There has always been a little bit of a bad rep that we've been working against in the sunless tanning space. The memes, the episode of Friends where Ross gets a spray tan, people just looking and feeling unnatural. And people would compare a spray tan of the past to a natural tan from the sun. And now it's totally possible to achieve a really natural looking result through sunless.
That's the voice of Corinne Madsen. She's a chief brand officer at the Glow Lounge, a chain of heated, streak-free, natural-looking airbrush tans throughout central Minnesota that first opened in 2011. And Corinne is totally correct. The early reputation of sunless tanners equated to streaky, smelly, and a total orange mess. I asked Corinne what she believes fueled the self-tanning boom and whether innovation was really the driving force behind its rise.
So I think that's one of the biggest things that's driving people to try new methods of tanning, like sunless tans, spray tans, and at-home self-tanners. So innovation is a huge driving factor, and I think education and awareness is the other big factor. So now, maybe 15 years ago, you didn't know better. You could use the excuse that you didn't know better, but in this day and age, we know better. The data is clear. Sunless tanning is the safer option. And if you're looking for a tan that looks and feels like your own skin, that is possible without exposing yourself to the risk of the UV rays.
Innovation may have made self-tanners look better, smell better, and last longer, but a great product only matters if people are willing to change their habits. For decades, tanning beds were more than just a beauty routine. They required weekly appointments and monthly memberships. So I wondered, what finally convinces someone to make the switch? Is it concern for their health? Is it convenience? Or is it something else entirely? Ask Corinne what she's hearing from clients who have traded UV tanning for a sunless glow.
So there are many reasons why I've heard clients have switched from UV tanning to sunless tanning. One thing is the convenience and the time, trading 20 minutes several times a week to chase the same result that you can get in a 20-minute session through a spray tan. That's one big factor. Money is another big factor, like no longer have to buy a monthly membership and have this pressure to go in, use it or lose it situation. But definitely the biggest reason I see people leaving the tanning beds and switching to sunless tan is those vanity reasons. You see that first wrinkle and you're no longer wanting to do the laying in the beds. You're no longer wanting to lay in the sun. So I think there's a big group of people that have left the tanning beds and gone into sunless for vanity reasons. Our clientele range, we've sprayed people for dance competitions that are under the age of 15, and we've sprayed people all the way up to 92. So we have a huge age range, and I think all of our clients, they want the same thing. They want to feel good in their skin. And I think that's the biggest thing that a sunless tan can offer is for you to feel good in your skin and not have to feel guilty about it and not have to be worried about the consequences later.
One thing that stood out to me during our conversation was that not everyone walks through the door looking for the same thing. A college student preparing for a beach trip doesn't necessarily have the same goals as someone in their 50s getting ready for a wedding or vacation. Different generations have grown up with different beauty ideals, different relationships with the sun, and different awareness of skin cancer risk. So I asked Corinne whether she noticed a generational shift in what people want from a tan, and whether younger clients are thinking about sun safety differently than those before them.
The younger people are definitely more like the trend wise, like they're like want to go darker, they want to be like as tan as possible. They're definitely wanting to push their limits in the sun still a little bit, and I love that they'll still get a spray tan, purchase a sunscreen, and then be able to, or use sunscreen. They don't have to necessarily get it from us, but I love that a younger person can get a spray tan, get that instant gratification that somebody in their 20s craves, and then still be able to be sun safe and sun smart by wearing sunscreen, still be able to be in the sun a little bit, but not feel like they have to push their limits. And our older clientele are definitely more like seeking a natural looking result. They don't want it to be obvious. They don't want it to look fake. They don't want their friends at the country club to be asking, where did you go on vacation? They just want it to kind of fly under the radar and feel like their self, but with the glow, with that healthy, fresh look that they, are looking for.
As our conversation came to a close, I wanted to look ahead. Self-tanning has come a long way in the last few decades. The formulas are better, the results are better, even the conversations around beauty has started to evolve. So I asked Corinne what she thinks the next chapter will look like, not just for the products themselves, but for the industry as a whole.
I do think there's going to be a lot more innovation in the sunless space to come. I think where we started and where we're at now, we've seen so much change in the industry. I think it was a very male-dominated space to start. I think there was a lot of like scantily clad women with like sexy before and afters. And I think that was truly not marketing to the demographic of women who aren't here to please other people or aren't here to fit someone else's object of desire. They're here to step into their own, feel good about themselves, make a name for themselves for reasons that don't have anything to do with their body or their appearance. And it's definitely an external service, but it does something to the internal. It changes how you feel about yourself and it makes you feel unstoppable.
But while the industry is changing, not every beauty habit is changing along with it. Throughout this series, we've talked about how tanning trends tend to repeat themselves. They just show up in different forms with new faces and on new platforms. So I asked Corinne whether she's seeing that play out with younger generations. Are we finally moving away from UV tanning, or are we more so just watching history repeat itself?
It's interesting because I've noticed even just the last 5 years, like the younger crowd is kind of repeating the mistakes that my generation made, which I felt like we were kind of moving away from that as a society. And now I'm seeing that there is, a lot of younger girls who are pushing their limits in the sun and they're taking those risks, using the tanning beds. Here where we're at in Minnesota, it's actually illegal for anyone under the age of 18 to use a tanning bed, and there's an additional sales tax on tanning. So it's really, like from a legislative standpoint, not promoted to younger people to use tanning beds, but I've even heard of girls 18 years old like driving to the Wisconsin border to tan for prom.
As I was writing this episode and revisiting my conversation with Corinne, I thought back to a recent Ultraviolet Tide newsletter. In the newsletter, I shared a conversation I had with my husband just a few weeks ago as I was packing for my sister-in-law's wedding in Charleston. Like a lot of people do before a big event, I had my checklist: dress, hair, nails, and of course, a spray tan. Not because I would even remotely be the center of attention, but rather as a new mom, these steps helped me feel more comfortable and confident in my new skin. Then my husband asked me a question I wasn't expecting. He said, "You've spent the last year researching tanning culture. You've interviewed dermatologists, melanoma survivors, and people whose lives were quite literally changed by tanning. So how is this not perpetuating the tan is better rhetoric?" At first, I wanted to defend myself. A spray tan doesn't expose me to ultraviolet radiation. It doesn't damage my DNA. It doesn't increase my risk of skin cancer. From a health perspective, that difference is enormous. But the more I sat with his question, the more I realized he wasn't asking about UV exposure, he was asking about beauty. Because when I walk into that wedding, no one knows whether my tan came from the sun, a tanning bed, or a spray booth. All they see is bronze skin. And that forced me to ask myself something I hadn't fully considered. Have we changed the behavior, or have we simply found a safer way to chase the same ideal? I don't think there's an easy answer. Personally, I don't think getting a spray tan is inherently at odds with loving your natural skin. I don't think enjoying beauty rituals makes someone hypocritical. We all exist inside a culture that shapes what we find beautiful. The difference is awareness. For decades, beauty marketing told us a tan meant you were healthier, more attractive, more vibrant, more successful. Today, the messaging is different, but the promise often sounds remarkably familiar. You'll look healthier, you'll look more radiant, you'll look like the best version of yourself. That's why I think this conversation matters. Sunless tanning is absolutely progress from a public health perspective. If someone who would have used a tanning bed chooses a spray tan instead, that is a meaningful win. But progress doesn't mean we're finished asking questions. It means we have the space to ask even better ones. The science has changed, the products have evolved, even public health messages have changed. But whether our definition of beauty has evolved quite as much is a question that's still being answered. If you think back to the beginning of this episode, we started with a familiar smell, the unmistakable scent and streaks of early self-tanner. Fast forward to today, and it's almost unrecognizable. The formulas are better, the results are better, and the industry is bigger than ever. What was once a scientific accident has become a nearly $2 billion global market fueled by innovation, skincare, and a growing desire to avoid UV damage. In many ways, that is real progress. More people are choosing a bottle of self-tanner over a tanning bed. They're protecting their skin while still getting that look they want, and that's something worth celebrating. But this episode also raises a bigger question. Have we changed what we value, or have we simply changed how we get there? For decades, a tan has been sold as a symbol of health, confidence, youth, and beauty. Self-tanning challenged the method of achieving that look. It doesn't necessarily challenge the ideal itself. Maybe that's okay. Maybe there's nothing wrong with enjoying a spray tan or a bottle of self-tanner if it helps someone feel confident without exposing themselves to unnecessary UV radiation. But it's worth asking ourselves where that desire comes from. We may have stopped chasing the sun, but will we ever stop chasing the glow? Next time, we're unpacking the rebrand of sunscreen, the influencers who made SPF cool, the myths that refuse to die, and why protecting your skin has never been more popular or more misunderstood. This is Burnt Truths, uncovering the shady side of getting sun-kissed. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and if you're enjoying the series, be sure to rate, review, and share with someone who might find it interesting.